And we kind of want to put it into the other mesh a little bit. So we kind of have it interfering with the other faces, but it really doesn't matter. And that looks good to me. So the next thing I want to do actually is apply a mirror, or not a mirror modifier, a subdivision surface modifier to this. So we get a nice transition here, because you can see that there is a sharp edge, some harsh edges right here. So we can go into the modifiers panel and select subdivision surface, and you can tell that it's we need to add some extra edge loops here to round this off, because it's kind of looking a little bit weird. So you can also set the render amount to 1 again. Okay, so you want to go into edit mode for this, and you want to select everything first, press W, and then shade smooth. That will give it the smooth transition, or the smooth shading, sorry. And we want to go into edit mode and side view. Now, we want to add 2 edge loops right on the edges here, so it sharpens that up. So you want to press Control R, so it gets this little kind of pink line that kind of shows you where your edge loops are going to be put. And you can scroll up with your mouse wheel to add more edge loops, if you didn't know that. And we want to add 2, so you just scroll up once, and you can just left click to add those. And now we want to actually scale on the y-axis and put these pretty much at the edges. So right about there. Okay, as you can see, we have a nice transition. I might actually want to do that a bit more, actually. So they're almost right at the edge. That looks decent, I think. Yeah. Okay, so now what we want to do is, since we already have the subdivision modifier on this cylinder, we can actually use that for the other cylinder that we need. So we can go into wireframe or in solid mode, it doesn't really matter, and just Shift D this, so duplicate this cylinder, snap it back, size it down a little bit, and bring it out just a bit. Not too much, but just so it's kind of interfering with that just the slightest amount. Kind of like that. And you can see it has the nice smooth shading as well. And we actually want this quite a bit smaller, so I would say about that size. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is add some materials to kind of see how it would look if it was to be rendered. So for this little cylinder in the middle here, we're going to go over to the materials panel, and what I want to do now is just add a new material for this. So we can just click new, and we'll change the diffuse to like a silverish kind of one. We'll actually make the better materials later. I'm just getting a basic idea, so we don't really need to worry about the specularity and shading and all that. So that should be good for that. And now we want to select the other one, add a new material, and we want to make this a whitish color, so drag that to a whitish color. Okay, so the last thing would be this outer shell here. Now before I do anything, I want to add those edge loops to sharpen up that center cutout circle here. So we can go into edit mode, and what we want to do is Control R, and that gives us our little pink line that we're going to use to add an edge loop. So we want to add it in this these faces right here. So we can left click, and actually, you know what? I am adding it in the wrong one. I'm adding it back here, so we want to make sure that we're adding it right in the front here. So maybe you can do it from a perspective view, or you can put the occlude back faces on, but whatever you feel more comfortable with. So then in a perspective view, I'm going to add this edge loop so I can make sure that it's going right on these faces. And I want to put it right next to this so we get a sharper edge. Okay, right there you can see that it's working out pretty good. And if you want to go a step further, you can actually add another edge loop, so Control R on the sides here. So one there, and then Control R again to add one over here. So we got a really nice outer shell here. Okay, so that's, I think the model, the shape and everything looks pretty much done. So now I'm going to move on to some, well, okay, one thing that we might want to do before is we might want to solidify this kind of shell. Because you can see it's really, it's just one dimension. It doesn't have any depth at all. It's just kind of a shell. And if we were to render this, it wouldn't look as believable. It would kind of look fake and kind of cheap, or whatever you want to call it. So what we want to do is add more depth to the outer shell, and by doing that we can just add more practicality to it, or whatever you want to say. Just make it look better. So how I'm going to do that is this new method, which I've not really used too much, but it's actually a really nice method and a really quick way to add some depth to an object. So the usual thing that I would do is maybe extrude and then scale it in or something like that to add depth, but it's really not that accurate. So the best way I think right now is to go over to the modifiers panel, add a new modifier, and that would be the solidify modifier. So this will actually add depth to our model without really doing anything but applying this modifier. So we can just select solidify, and right away it's added a certain amount of depth to it. I might want to add a little bit more, so you can see down here we can apply a different thickness. So I'm going to put it to like 150, I think, or 180. 180 looks about right. Okay, and you can see there's other settings you can do, like the crease and even thickness, rim material, all that stuff, offset. Okay, so I think the model is pretty much good right now.